Good morning. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. We strive to be a beacon of truth and light up on the peninsula here and to the area that surrounds us. We're a welcoming congregation to anyone of any race or gender identity, political, social, religious orientation. My name is Steve Wilson. If there's anything that goes awry with our technology today as we adapt to a new camera system, I know just who to blame, Mike Butita. But that same person who might be semi-responsible for any glitches has been a real hero in this transition that you are probably going to experience or have experienced even last week. And we have big thanks to him for his diligence around working with this. He's been a great ally. I'm going to lift up Kelly Kinsman as well. Kelly deserves a lot of credit for being one of our more active non-members, engaged in so many aspects of life that it's too much to thank. She's been just a great, just a great resource around here. Sadly, as many of you know, we've had our Black Lives Matter now sign that we've put up either damaged or stolen 4 times in little more than a couple months. And Kelly and Vivian and Diane and Dan Dempster and Mike Butita, and you know who you are, have been very engaged in the response to that, and we're going to go public with that news. And I think next week we're going to bring, the kids will be back doing a socially distanced bikes and bubbles, and we're going to have the kids make some, or jazz up some Black Lives Matter signs in case they get damaged. So we're going to be persistent. We tried to do socially distanced laundry love yesterday back at Vivi's Laundry. There was only one taker because we've been out of the sequence of it, but we're back at it, and we're going to invite in some folks to, continue our most sort of hands-on ministry that, went quiet because of COVID. So we figured out a way to do it without entering the laundromat, and we're going to be back up and running with that. The choir is back. Severin is working with digital songs from a distance in this virtual call-in they do at 6 or 7 on Wednesday. If you want more details on that and you're not already involved, check in with the church, check in with the website or me, and I'll get you in tune with that, and we could, use more folks involved with that and not lose touch with our great choir. We also, at this time of year, historically, are out on the patio taking pictures of people for our membership directory. We use these next 2 weeks as kind of membership drive time. And so Gabby's pulling together a list of people who are regulars here, members, friends, and we're going to invite you to send your pictures in because we sort of build a photo directory and it helps people online as well. So we're working on that. Every Tuesday, Dan Dempster, our local, meditative guru, does a distancing meditation, usually right outside here. It's a beautiful night often here, so you might consider that. We also have Val Carenza Pack is also leading a yoga workshop and a meditative workshop through Torrance Memorial Hospital that's free. You can seek me for more information if you want to check in on that. There are free classes sponsored by Torrance Memorial Hospital. There's also a Memory Matters. There's a free program for seniors who are living with memory loss. It's connected to UCLA, and there's a registration that closes on September 15th. That'll be in the e-blast upcoming this week, so if you want to register for that, it's D-HEART, if you've got a pen, pencil in someone who attends here. Just the letter D, heart, at abc-seniors.com. Okay, so there's quite a bit. We would normally be back together. People draw in. It's a Unitarian Universalist tradition to bring a little bit of water from a special place this summer, be it your backyard or Yosemite or wherever you were. And we're not going to get a chance to do that since we're physically distanced from one another, but we're going to pour water. Our former president Gary is, and I'm going to sort of set our theme around water. UUA President Susan Frederick Gray says, the practice of ingathering, I like these words, no matter the distance, reminds us of our enduring connections. It helps us feel the way we're held by our beloved community and that we're connected by these unseen threads, which I like, of care and intention to one another. And we're connected with our love of love and our love of justice. So, okay, I think that's about it. We're going to have an announcement. We've had postcarding events, to promote democracy. We've had 2 already. We're going to have one next Saturday afternoon, and the Saturday afternoon after that on the 19th and 26th. We had 17 people here yesterday. We signed roughly 500 postcards, got signed and off to get people engaged in the great American tradition of voting. And if you want to sign up for that, we're going to have Gabby administer that, and that's admin, if you think of this, admin at pacificunitarian.org. If you email me, if you have my email address, we'll put you on the list. We just want to keep a sense of how many people are coming. Okay, I'd like to invite Terry Masters forward to light our chalice words. I'll light the chalice, and Terry's going to say our chalice words.
We gather here seated, standing, but always spinning on the edge of the water planet, third rock from the sun. In an atmosphere thin but essential, surrounded by a bouquet of stars with an excellent view. We gather here in reverence before the majesty of creation, the wonder of this moment, aware of how difficult it is to hold that it is all miracle, and aware that this is why we are together.
Our talented Severin is going to share with us a hymn.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul.
Good morning. The Reverend Steve is going to talk about water today. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about water too. And I was looking out the window across the South Bay, and I saw that it was foggy. And fog is just a bunch of little water particles up in the air. And I like fog. I also like a light rain, okay? That's not what I meant. You're just supposed to squirt it out, not at me, okay?
Sorry.
So, there are a lot of things that we love about water. One is that you can water plants. Terry, you want to water a plant for me? No, up here, Terry. You're supposed to be watering the plant, not Terry. All right. So another thing I like on a hot day is something cold to drink. And you know, like Coca-Cola or lemonade is mostly water. But a good glass of water, that's what I like too. Right, Terry? Thank you. You can go now. You've helped me enough. I also like to go down to the beach. I like to play in the ocean, and I like to play in the hose in the backyard. Well, hey, what's this?
This represents the waves of the ocean washing over you.
No. What is this? Hose for the backyard. No, stop it now. Stop it. You know, I just realized something. Water is excellent. I love water. But you know, not too much. And I'm just thinking that maybe too much of a good thing is not necessarily good. So enjoy things, but be careful about too much, or you'll end up like me, all wet. Thank you.
I think after that performance, it's appropriate to call in joys and concerns. Leanne's going to light our joys and concerns candle, which we normally invite folks forward to share what's ever on their hearts and minds in kind of a collective prayer with people not being here. I want to lift up Penny Trinnell, who's home. She's back home. I'm going to see her tomorrow. She's got her hip replaced, and that's great news. We still think about the Williamson family that lost their second home in a fire. We got a number of, folks just tired of COVID, and we've got fires all over California. It's a difficult time. Let's pause for a moment and think about all those who've lost people in fires, are feeling terrified. We have an earth that's crying out for help and crying out for a cool that our lifestyle is not giving the earth. And that's a long-term sadness we need to address much better than we are. And we've got concerns about a divided nation, and these are tough times for America, and I just want us to just take a second to hold the nation and the planet in our stead. Gatherings like this to remind ourselves about what's important in life are essential. So, for all those joys and concerns that remain unsaid, that candle's lit for you. Terry Masters is going to come up and share with us a prayer, followed by Severin giving us a moment of meditative music.
May we join our hearts in this sacred covenant. Remember all those who have lived and died and shared this world with us. To forgive freely and completely all who have wronged us. And for those whom we have wronged, may we seek their forgiveness and make amends. May we remember and honor those of every faith who have sought truth, and pray for the grace and strength to work until bodies are broken no more, until the practice of peace in this church, in this town, and in this world have joined all the families of the earth. May we all join in saying, Amen.
There are some things that each of us are naturals at, things we have what people might call a gift for. I'm talking about that primal defining stuff that people will speak about at our funerals. Leanne Hart's natural at being attentive and reliable, trustworthy. Tara's strong-willed and smart. Vivian is a competent straight shooter. I could go on down our list of our congregation. Andrea Matson DeKay, soft-hearted, thoughtful. Judy Schaefer, steadfast, self-reflective, sober. Andy and Janet Kister, slobberingly emotional doers, not talkers. Marlene Barone, sensitive, lovely. I could go on down the qualities that define all of us, and mostly we'd all nod our heads in agreement. One of my gifts I'm very good at is not worrying too much. It's a virtue, it's a vice. I'm serious, your minister may, as you might have noticed, is nearly a genius to a fault about being able to hold back anxiety. I'm loyal, I work hard, but my lack of anxiety can make me a little bit sloppy with details. I think for all of us, those strongest qualities that define us, things that Emerson would call our genius, as he phrased it, appear to be some combination of things that are innate to us, born into our dispositional DNA, you might say, and how those get refined by context, right? It's always a mix of nature and nurture to be really good at something, I generally think. Those who study outliers or geniuses like Malcolm Gladwell, it's not surprisingly to turn out to be something. You have to have at least the natural base to do it, the proper amount of IQ or whatever it is. And then, more often than not, you have to have early experiences that shape that gift. And then you have to adopt it, probably as a living practice, a philosophy, if you will. You have to embody what that is. So Naresh might be welcoming, generous, and smart. Almost overly giving is his demeanor. But he probably is that way because he values those qualities too. In fact, I know he does. For me, in addition to being even-keeled, I think my early experiences with my brothers, and I shared this when I first got here, we took in as sort of philosophical training. We grew up in a safe 6 out of 7 houses in a row extended family. It stretched across the street. And my parents took their roles pretty seriously, maybe in standard gender ways, but we watched our parents work their tails off, build a family, a business, basically have a house paid off almost by the time they were in their early 30s, and then get everything they strive for broken by a divorce. That could have made my brothers and I a number of things. It could have made us bitter. It seemed not to. It could have made us codependent people that craved those kind of attachments. Or what happened, though, I think, at least I suspect what happened, was we watched our parents work really hard for dreams that crumbled, and it made us step back a bit from wanting things that could be taken away. We generally, in a way, became philosophically Stoics. Greg Garcia is really into the Stoics now, and we've had some passing conversations about the coolness of Stoicism and its pragmatism. But without knowing we were in any kind of philosophical school, my brothers and I encouraged ourselves to be maybe a little bit emotionally tough or maybe a little bit distanced. We keep our emotions in check. Again, it's a virtue, as most of our things are, and a vice. Without knowing that there was any kind of Roman slave who adopted himself to be wary of things that cannot be controlled or controlled by others, my brothers and I, became Stoics. When I was about 12, I remember being distinctly asked, I'll never forget this, asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I remember distinctly saying that I was either going to be the quarterback of the Patriots or I was going to be a minister. But the interesting thing about it is not that I became a minister. I wavered in my commitment to this path for 15 of those years shortly following age 12. But I knew that what I remembered most distinctly was that there wasn't really that much yearning. There wasn't any sense of dreaming in me. I was sort of I was going to be one of those two things. The Patriots never called. The reason I think I'm a Stoic is because the want part kind of flummoxed me. Without knowing the word, I was a little bit tough, a little bit emotionally distant. And I remember photocopying from the Encyclopedia of Religion, the little page, very tight font as you remember from encyclopedias, the thing on Stoicism. I made 2 copies and I sent it both to my brothers, and I put on the envelope, I said, "Here is what we are." We're in a COVID time. So what we have to worry about is unique, isn't it? We have to balance the drama of a pandemic with our fact that our lives are continually being lived. That kind of can sound morose. It's not. Having successfully removed yourself from drama, which my brothers and I are experts at, is really where this sermon begins. See, it's easy enough now to be moved into a place of nihilism or depression, to feel like you can't do anything. That's not true. We can do lots of things. And I love that phrase that, both Tara and Diana Durham have shared with me. It's not socially distanced, it's physically distanced. And the real religious question for us as we now enter, about month 6 of not being able to physically be with one another and hug the people we love and go out for dinner as freely as we used to, is that we have to keep the spirit of what's possible alive. We have to keep at a distance, or maybe right up front, the question of why should I really care? We have to be careful not to let the what I can't do get too much in the way of what we can do. Now, a few of us are struggling on a day-to-day basis. Maybe a few of those people out in the audience is. The nice part about the Western world is that for the most part, for most of us listening to this audience, certainly there's homeless people and people in health situations, we don't have to answer that question in dire ways more often than not. But we as a church and as a people, when we look back in June and hopefully there's a vaccine and we've returned to some kind of normal, I picked that because that's the classic end of the church year, I think that's what's going to most define us is not necessarily exactly what we do, but how we held our spirits, how much we worried about being safe and healthy, true, but being alive in this moment as well and not letting all that can happen pass, right? Most of us watching this are mask-wearing people. We walk into stores. We're going to keep ourselves distant. We're not going to do reckless things. I think the threat for most of the people watching me, and if it's not, then be more careful, we have to look around and see if we held up to the standard of our own values. Did we live as fully as we possibly could? Did we take what we can't do and make that more? That's my challenging question to us now. What personally and collectively as a church did we do to hang together, to extend those invisible threads that Susan Gray talks about? The easiest question is to do nothing, in a way. We're sort of given a weird permission, aren't we? A permission to not be engaged. Our Universalist forebears knew all too well, watching altar calls and emotional commitments of people who came strolling into town, demanded allegiance, called probably earnest aspects of faith to have people fade back to be their old selves. Let's be careful to keep the old selves of engagement as much as possible alive. We're likely going to be able to attend to our families and watch our favorite shows and do many of those things at home that we can do. But I want to ask you a deeper question. By the end of this year, by June, I want you to be able to ask yourself this question. Did you and did we as a church embrace and embody that spark of hope and mercy that's built into the universe that always calls us to be our biggest selves? Did we do that in this most challenging of years? Did we let the good and easy and the joyful that is who we are in our own levels of genius, did we let that as much as possible shine into other people's lives? Or did we use this as quiet permission to retreat, to be smaller, to shrink not only our geography, but maybe our hearts and maybe our wills a little bit? Did you allow yourself to be washed over by the good calls for charity and to be the best person that you can be? Did you allow that to wash over you while you were largely at home? Ask yourself, am I going to hold myself up to the standards of letting my deepest passions drive me, even if I can't move around like I did? I want us to evaluate ourselves as a church on that too. At a time when it's easy to say, why should I care? Isn't it easier not to? I think we need to let our big brains and our big hearts call ourselves to feel and love and live out the best of the rare thing that this church is and we as individuals are. That's why we're returning to Do Laundry Love. We're going to meet in small groups safely outside. We're not going to let the pattern of us being held up. We're going to balance concerns for well-being with the fact that we need one another and we need to keep each other safe. So it's sad that we can't walk our water in here and let our kids come up and talk about a family vacation, because there really weren't that many this year. I want to invite up our former president and one of our most active members, Gary, to take this water here for as representative of all of us and pour it into our collective bowl. I'm going to boil that, and we're going to use that for any kind of children's moments or any of those sort of sacred things. This tradition was designed by Carolyn McDade, who also wrote the hymn, Spirit of Life. Great flourish, Gary. And she was asked to create a ritual at a women's conference in Michigan, and the ceremony was designed to speak to two things. They wanted to create a universal tradition for Unitarian Universalists that weren't so exclusively Judeo-Christian. They wanted a solidarity that with all the women of the world, mostly who've carried water. That was an important part of the water tradition and symbolism. And they wanted to identify ourselves more closely with the planet, of course, the interconnectedness to the web of life. And that is where this tradition begins for us only 40 years ago. 40. Yeah, 40. So it's good to be together again. I know it's a virtual and probably a little bit of a half-hearted in-gathering. In the spirit of Karen Miracle, who wants me to do more readings and close with them, I'm going to close with two. This is from the German poet Rilke. It's inspiring. Rilke says, God speaks to each of us as we're being made, and then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You will be sent out beyond your recall. Go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame. Make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you. Beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. And by Kok Hyang Macnaughton, a minister in our tradition, speaking with the spirit of water, he says, I am but a drop of water. Alone I would disappear, dried up by the scorching sun, sucked up by the dry, thirsty earth. But together We can wear out stones. We can carve out a quite grand canyon, make streams and rivers, and find our way to the sea. Please give generously for the life and work of this church. We have a treat today. We have Bob playing with Severin for our offertory. Please consider giving for this work. Take it away, Severin and Bob.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences, beneath all of our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. Blessed be. And now, as the Quakers say, our service truly should begin. Thanks for joining us today. Amen.